Okay, I will call to order the May 12th Select Board Licensing and Petitions hearing to order at 11 a.m. I just want to confirm that all the Select Board members can hear me and that I can hear them. Tom,
Here.
Malcolm,
Yes, here.
Don.
Present.
Okay, and I don't see Matt yet. Oh,
Nope, not
there he
here.
is.
Hello.
It's the baseball cap, Matt.
Oh,
I didn't
there we
recognize
go.
you with the baseball cap on. Okay,
There's the
great.
gray hair again.
All right, we have a full board present. Amy, you going to make the announcement, please?
Yes, Madam Chair. You can hear me, right? I want to make sure I'm on here. Okay, great.
Yep.
So good morning. Yes, just one announcement that next Tuesday on May the 20th, we are hosting all of the liquor license managers or staff to a meeting with the Alcoholic Beverages Control Commission, the ABCC, their executive director and deputy director, and someone from the Department of Labor are coming over. We haven't had them in a long time to really just discuss all sorts of things with liquor regulations, kind of setting kind of the standards for the year. We have so many now since the last time, so they're excited to come out. We're going to have fire, PD, health, and such, so that we can just kind of have a preseason get together. The board, of course, is invited to attend. I think it'll be great, kind of just everyone getting together and discussing that. And I believe we're trying to afterwards have a meeting available with culture and tourism ourselves and any event planners and folks like that tend to pull one day and temporary event permits and stuff. So I think it'll be a good day for kind of just setting the standard for the season and attending. So we'll send the invitation to all the board members as well.
Okay, so Erica, we should probably post a board meeting.
I was going to email you about that if you felt that the board was going to attend. So
I will definitely plan to attend. How
I'll
about?
just post just in case.
Okay, that's great, so that we don't have an issue with the. Okay, terrific. Thank you, Amy. Next up is departmental requests, culture and tourism, review of special event permit report. Chantal, are you going to take the lead on this, or Dina?
We are both sharing things, so Chantal, you can go ahead.
Yeah,
All right,
I'll go ahead and do the a quick report. So we've had 129 special events thus far since February 1st when we started accepting. 33 new since our last meeting. 62 have already been permitted. And 83 of those events require some sort of alcohol permitting, whether it be through ABCC charitable wine pourings or one-day pour permits. 59 of those 129 events were proposed by Wine Festival. 24 of their proposed events did not require a special event permit or were canceled. And I just want to point out that even though they didn't require special event permit, they required either health permits or public safety involvement. So emergency action plans, floor plan reviews, as well as police and fire details. So we were still involved in those events. And we issued officially 34 special event permits as of 8:58 a.m. to the Wine Festival. We didn't get we weren't officially, didn't officially have all of the required documents until 8:16 a.m. this morning. But we did have the permits queued up and ready for when we finally got them. We could just hit send on those. So they're now fully permitted. And then for film and photography, we've had 5 permit requests kind of scattered all over the island, from beaches to Upper Main Street to Sconset. So, and that's kind of a quick overview of what we've got going on as far as permit requests. Happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, I will toss it to Dina for the next item.
Any questions from the board on that segment of the report, Matt?
Yeah, just on page 37, you have a definition of event venue. Oh, do I not have my, oh, I have it on. how do you define event venue?
I think we're looking at two different documents.
All right, hang on. It's on 37 of our packet. Let me read it. Hang
Oh,
on. Let me
yeah,
see
I
if
don't have
can-
your packet.
All right, hang on then. Let me just see if I can read it real quick. That's not it. Hang on. It's not.
Matt, is this the page you're talking about?
One sec. I think so. Yeah, let me look.
This is page 37, so.
Okay. So Matt, if you don't mind, to you through the chair, we'll be discussing that specific document in item 3, if you don't mind. Because that's a joint document between us and Amy.
It may be that one. Let me just pull up my packet. Hang on. I'm struggling between all these windows. You can go on to the next one if I can just come back to it when I find it. Is that all right?
Yeah, it sounds like it may be part of a discussion on a different agenda item, Matt. So
It
we'll-
may
we'll
be,
get
but
back
I'll
to it.
know in a second, but let me find it. You can go on.
Okay. Okay. Dina?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So the next agenda item is a consent item. The NHA is applying again this year to host their community day at Children's Beach on August 6th from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. They will need they're applying for a public assembly permit. This is a free event with 500 expected attendees. And it has been approved by Parks and Rec for use of Children's Beach. We're seeking a consent item because they were approved for a public assembly last year when they had an expected attendance of 200 attendees plus staff. But this year it's going up 300, so we're seeking consent from the board. And the applicants are present to answer any additional questions specific to the event.
Okay. Any questions from the board on this application? Malcolm?
I'm recruiting. My wife and I work for the NHA.
Okay. Thank you, Malcolm. Matt?
I'll move approval. Sheila and
Okay.
I went last year and it was a great event. So
Yeah. And I love the idea of family-oriented events too. So do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. By roll call, Matt,
I
Don,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. That is unanimous 4-0. And then next up is triathlon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So next we have a consent item for the half marathon. This will be taking place on October 12th from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. at Bartlett's and the Smooth Hummocks. We're seeking a public assembly, but wanted to bring it before the board because it is going up by 250. Last year, they were expecting 750 attendees in total, including runners. This year's expected attendance is 1,000 people, which is a 250 increase, but the event will remain largely the same as previous years. And I believe the applicant was supposed to be here, but he may have had problems joining.
No,
I'm here.
I see him. Yeah.
Oh,
He got renamed. He got renamed.
okay. Sorry.
Jocelyn Wong. It's actually Jim Mann. Hi, Jim. Any questions for Jim from the board or for Dina or a motion? Matt?
Yeah, just a quick question. Do you have the parking and the capacity to handle 250 more people out there? Is that all set?
We do. We last year we had 750, about 745 run. And we used the Cisco parking lot as an overflow. And we actually filled it up early, and we actually had about 50 slots available on Bartlett's facility and then a half empty Cisco lot. So I think we're pretty well covered. We don't frankly want to get it too big, but it's growing in popularity, and we've got a lot of demand for it. So we sold out last year on August 15th, and I do want to make sure we reserve some slots for locals and that sort of thing. So so it's gone really well so far. So we don't want to get too big, to be honest with you.
Matt?
Yeah, it's a great location to be doing this. I'll move approval.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, by roll call, Matt,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Malcolm,
Aye.
and the chair votes enthusiastically aye. I had a niece participate last year, and it was a really fun event to be at. Very community oriented as well as people traveling in. So it really covered both bases. Thank you.
Thank
Tim.
you, Brooke. Appreciate it.
Mhm. Okay, next up is a request for review and approval of one-day pouring policy and art gallery program. Who is going to take the lead?
I'll begin, Madam Chair. So this is in reference to a policy and kind of how we manage one-day pouring permits. Something I've wanted to bring up for a long time, especially because the increase in requests that we get. We do over 100, and now Culture and Tourism, one-day pouring permits, not just events. So we really want to kind of make sure that we're doing the right thing and going in the direction the board would like to see. So just kind of to review, when it comes to one-day pouring permits for alcohol, although it requires some of the same things, purchasing from a distributor, some insurance, training and stuff that a full liquor license does. The difference is that the select board, it's fully under scope of the select board or the licensing board for the municipality. So you have, as a board, the ABCC doesn't review and approve. We report it to the ABCC. However, you are the sole authority in this instance. You have broad discretion as to issuing these or not issuing these, depending on what you think is best for the town. As I mentioned here and included in the packet was, what the reference to in chapter 207-12 town regulations as far as the policy in the regulations for this. It's one-day licenses are to be issued primarily to applicants sponsoring functions that are not held more than once annually, except for those applicants that are in the business of catering or accommodating individual functions. They're not intended as an alternative to a seasonal or annual liquor license. So when that was written, obviously it was referring to nonprofit once a year galas and such. And at the time, I don't think the caterer's liquor license existed. It does now for private events for caterers. We do have a handful that do have that license. But what is increased greatly is requests from art galleries and retail stores, t-shirt shops, jewelry shops, you name it. They all want to serve liquor at some point, and some have seen it as not needing approval because they're not charging for it. So what we want to do here is review with you just kind of how we're moving forward with this, a proposal to how to manage, and something that we can eventually maybe write into the regulations. So I'll get in. If any questions as I'm doing now, I'm just going to get into the points of the policy. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So we reviewed many towns in the Commonwealth and other states as well. A lot of local towns. I included a program in Lowell about art galleries. Art galleries are something that, they have lots of openings and things of that sort. And it's pretty common for them to have events that have alcohol. So we kind of looked at the regulations for Lowell that has a special requirements for certified art galleries and museums. They as well have a culture and tourism type of department as well, and look to promote cultural activities. So we would like to kind of emulate that and have something that the art galleries can be part of. They would pay the $50 fee that they normally do for a beer and wine permit, but it would allow for maybe multiple events over the season, because when they purchase from a distributor, there's a lot of minimums and stuff like that. So it's hard to do one-off events for them. But part of this is the fact that these locations are not licensed as public places of assembly, meaning they're not getting inspections and such because they're not hosting these types of things. We need to kind of be in compliance with that. We need to, I've talked to fire about that as well, as they work with building on these types of things, to say that if we approve this and are in line with the regulations, folks that want to be part of this program, that want to have events during the year at their galleries for openings need to make sure they are inspected, have an occupancy number, and are licensed as a place of assembly, meaning a COI like other locations have. That's a very important part of this policy. And then part of this discussion as well is about retail stores. And most towns I talk to don't have the number of requests that we receive. Obviously, we have a lot of retail stores that want to serve, that want to have DJs, like really want to have events. Our recommendation is to not allow for retail type of permits, except for organized sip and shop type events that the Chamber or Culture and Tourism may sponsor with multiple locations. Talking to Barnstable, they do that maybe once or twice a year. Participating locations do apply to be part of it, are inspected, and there is a police detail for the event. So that's kind of how it's handled. I think this will assist with, our efforts to be in compliance with liquor laws and to have very solid parameters for these locations. So I think I want to kind of see what kind of questions you have and discuss it. I included in that page, I believe, Matt, that you were referring to. Those are the guidelines that we give now for one-day applications. And I included kind of some of this language that would be added to this, again, as a policy, as we would move forward. And I think if this works, we would consider updating our regulations. So if you want to pull that up? The page with the yellow writing that Matt was, oh yeah, that right in the red, excuse me.
This?
No, the one with the red, the proposed that Matt was referring to. Yeah, the one-day license guidelines. So this, we have, I just cut and paste kind of what we have on the website, which we give folks in Culture and Tourism as managing right now under liquor laws. So again, it's the proposed conditions that those wanting to participate and be certified for this program would have to go through the inspection process. We want them to have locked storage on site because you really can't, just be stuffing this anywhere. And the fee for the permit will remain the same, which is a current rate of $50, but can include up to, we recommend 6 for the year, if they want to have one once a month. To make sure there's not multiple in a week. So just basic conditions that are in line with liquor regulations that allow for it and give them some opportunity to do so. But again, and in restricting retail stores and businesses that are not located in an inspected and permitted place of assembly. So that is it, I think, for my basic overview. I don't know if Culture and Tourism has anything to add, but we just wanted to kind of see what the select board feels about this policy and how we manage this.
Okay, thanks, Amy.
Yep.
Chantal or Dina, do you want to add anything, or can I go to the board for questions?
We have nothing to add. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board? Tom?
Yeah, Amy, what is the timeline for applying for these permits in advance? What I'm concerned about is that staff gets into a position where there's a last minute thing and there's so many other permits and things to do that that you have to scramble, and you guys have made every effort to make sure that including as Chantal reported this morning at the last minute. And I just don't want to see these get in this situation.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for that question. I know we've done in the past, and it'll be up to Culture and Tourism to maybe set what they need. It was 14 days. Did we get them in less than that? Yes. We often found them, again, we're trying to get ahead of, meeting with these folks and setting standards so that it'll help that communication. We'll certainly roll it out as needed and help folks kind of get in line with it. The other part of this too is to remind folks that you don't need to be exchanging dollar for dollar for the drink. Delivery of alcohol constitutes a sale. Anything that's advertised, open to the public, You can't serve any alcohol on your premise retail store, even if it's not advertised. If you have it behind the counter and you give it to a special client, you can't be doing that. So it's hoping to establish this so there are fewer last minute things, and that we would say no to anything coming up too short, because coming up less than 14 days, you're not going to be able to order from a distributor. We know sometimes they're probably going to a package store, which is against regulations. Hard to always check up on that. So establishing the timeline, I think, will be important, and who is allowed to even apply, I hope, will help in that respect as well.
Okay, do you think maybe going to 21 days or 30 days makes more sense?
I think eventually, yes, because honestly, this slow roll of having a select board, licensing board type of activity is leading to these event reports, is going to lead to, in most towns, any single 1-day pouring permit is coming to a hearing. Maybe not a public hearing, but it's coming individually. So that's how Chantal started to roll out the event report. So you can kind of start seeing it and starting to see just the load of them. So eventually, yeah, I think they're going to have to put it in prior to us setting the packet up for a meeting, so that every single one is on a consent item, even if you do it as a group. So this way, setting up this program for these types of activities helps kind of set that up as a program and a standard. They can submit those dates, it can go before the board, and that we don't accept last minute type of activities. I don't know of any business or retail store that's going to go under if they don't have a, wine for some certain event. So, but again, this is at the board's discretion on how they feel about this. We have 110 liquor licenses. The island is well served with the full-time liquor licenses. I think they also feel that multiple 1 days all over the place, impacts their business sometimes. So it's setting a standard to allow for it on a limited basis, but not, all over the place. So yes, eventually I think it should be on every single licensing agenda as a consent item for you to see. But again, we'll work with folks to get there this season.
Okay, Madam Chair, I have one more follow-up.
Sure, go ahead, Tom.
For the permit that can include up to 6 dates, is that sort of the standard in other towns? That seems like a lot to me. Yeah.
Yeah. And so a lot of other towns, again, we're one of the few that sees this at the level that we see it, especially with an intense seasonal season that we see. And I'm certainly going to discuss this with the ABCC next week and other towns. But I would say I put it at that number so that it can be negotiated down, or whatever you see. That would be a yearly type situation. And I think eventually what I wanted to do is kind of set it up for this season and then work on fees and regulations. That's an existing fee. I think once a month is reasonable in season, and, during the holidays that we have events and things of that sort. So I'd rather have it higher and pull it down than have to add to it. So that was just there's no standard in other places. Again, I think we see more than most.
Got it. That makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Amy. Any other questions from the board?
Yeah. Brooke,
Go
it's
ahead,
me.
Matt. Mhm.
Yeah, no, the question that was there, I did about the event venue. What is, I was reading that and it
These
said,
puppies.
whoops, sorry.
Excuse me, there's an attendee. There we go. Thank you.
A one-day
Go ahead.
license is not required for private events such as wedding or family gatherings held by a private residence at a private residence. I get that.
Yep.
That doesn't operate as an event venue. Who are the ones operating as event venues? How do we define that, and who is that? Why is that there?
Yep. So, and maybe I should reword how that is. So how we determine something is private, and it comes through what we get every holiday from the ABCC, but determining a private event is, it's not advertised. not open to the public or tickets are not sold, there is one single host that is responsible for payment, things of that sort. So we generally go by that definition. So I can probably reword that if that's coming across as trying to label a private home as an event facility, but it goes by those standards of payment, advertisement, accessibility to the public, selling tickets, things of that sort. So those factors are considered.
All right, so if someone wants to rent my house here on the cliff and rent my, the back of something natural, they can, or just say my house, because
Yeah.
something natural's a pre-existing non-conforming. If they want to rent my house and have a 200 person wedding here, do they have to get a 1-day license or no?
No, in that instance, they'd have the option to either hire a local caterer with a state issued catering liquor license that allows for service and sale of alcohol at that type of event for up to 5 hours. They report, by the way, when they do use that, they do report that to us. It's required to report to the chief of police. Or secondly, if they have just a general caterer or just doing it themselves, they would have to make sure they purchase the alcohol, meaning the people hosting the wedding and such. It comes down to the sale or delivery of alcohol. So they can absolutely do that. We wouldn't issue a 1-day permit. We would either advise a caterer with that license to provide the alcohol, or they purchase it themselves, the family or whomever. And that you as a homeowner are not purchasing the alcohol and selling it as part of the letting them use your house type of situation. Does that make sense?
Well, I understand your explanation makes sense, but I think our focus, or the ABCC's focus, doesn't make sense to me. Those types of uses are more impactful than, someone having a couple of bottles of wine at a opening downtown. It seems to me, 200 people at my house, 300 people at my house, no license. I just think that the ABC or somebody is kind of, and then, so that's one thing. The liquor distributor part doesn't make a lot of sense. Again, I know this is ABCC rules, but if a small business downtown is going to have a couple bottles of wine, how are they, everybody going to apply for an account with the distributors to do that? I don't think that's
No.
realistic, and I'm sure it doesn't happen now. And I think every single place downtown for stroll, just about everyone does some sort of, some sort of thing in the evenings, or, there's a lot of it going on, and it's gone on since, for 30 or 40 years. The other point I want to make, just general point, is this how we want to, is this our priority? I know the state is forcing it on us, but would we want staff time to be working on short-term rental stuff or peer-to-peer or event stuff, rather than individual businesses, are we doing, is this the best, is this our best way of using staff resources? Is my question. And Amy, you can help me out on that, but it just seems, the peer-to-peer, we couldn't get to it. We don't have time. The short-term rental stuff is a hot potato in between all these departments. It's a huge issue, and we're dealing with this. Help me walk me through why how should I feel about that?
So Amy, do you want to take a stab at that? Chantal has her hand up if you want to.
Yeah, I need to take a minute before I answer that question. So go to Chantal.
Chantal?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Matt, if you will, I think one of the issues that we face as a town is, and I think this has been a topic of discussion for some time now, that every t-shirt shop in town, every gallery in town, and throughout the island, you have your actual event venues that have liquor licenses. Everybody seems to think that serving alcohol is the only way you can get people in your store, in your gallery, or in your t-shirt shop. While alcohol service in retail spaces are not currently allowed under our regulations, it is the norm for art galleries to be able to serve alcohol. When we're dealing with 1-day pour permit requests, because let's just call it what it is, these special event permit requests, like I mentioned, 2/3 of them had 1-day pour permit requests attached to it. When we're dealing with so many of those events where of the 123, 89 of them have 1-day pour permits attached. Now imagine the 50 retail spaces throughout town now want 1-day pour permits. They want to serve alcohol too, when we already have these 89 events happening. Then you have your art galleries. So that I think the point of all of this to create the art gallery one was, how can we create a one-stop shop for these art galleries that in theory already have their artists booked for the rest of the year. They have their dates set forward, so they can submit one application to make the process a little bit easier for them. They're telling us who their alcohol sources are, because that's what's required by Massachusetts state law. And they don't have to submit every single month a 1-day pour permit. They just have one application. So instead of us adding, 72 more 1-day pour permit requests on it, we're really just dealing with 12. So it's a way to make it a little bit easier for us as a staff to process these 1-day pour permit requests that are already going to be coming, if we can get it in a package deal, and also make it a little bit more organized for us as a community to know at some point there has to be a cap. If there are already 3 galleries in town serving alcohol that night and we have 20 t-shirt shops that want to serve alcohol that night, maybe that's not the best night for the t-shirt shops to be trying to do sip and shops,
Okay, Matt?
Yeah, so I look at this, and I agree with the art gallery thing. I think that's a good move. But I look at this and I almost think that we're asking even more people to apply. We're asking everybody to put an application in, so I think it may create more, more work, more for everybody. Here's a question. What happens if you have a shop and a customer brings it in? Is that illegal still?
Well, I mean, customers bringing in a bottle of wine into a t-shirt shop and starts drinking. I mean, like BYOB is something, as long as you're not facilitating it to any degree. But again, to say this is difficult, because to say that we have not had time to deal with peer-to-peer car sharing, the amount of time we've spent on that, to the absolute, just not even dealing with any of the 110 liquor licenses we're dealing with already. So it has been a lot of staff time on all those issues you bring up. And I think the responsible service of alcohol is incredibly important, because people are looking at it as a right, as we just, I can't even tell you some of the requests we've gotten that have been kind of ridiculous. So we're just looking to understand the select board's policy and feelings of just why just liquor everywhere, because technically, and as I've spoken to the state about this and have been in training with other police departments on this, that any alcohol in a public space needs to be permitted or regulated of some kind. Just, when you go to a salon and they give you a glass of wine at your service, it's technically against the law. We're not out there cracking down on that, but it's just asking for a responsible service and a policy and procedure such that they're not tackling random requests all over the place for folks that want to be, have a DJ. Like literally, we've gotten a t-shirt shop wants a DJ and alcohol, and it's just not, like we,
Yeah.
So
Amy, I'm going to interject for a second. I like the fact that we are now setting expectations that retail shops are not bars.
yeah.
And I think having a firm policy on that outside of, the cranberry weekend or stroll or daffodil weekend is a really good place to start, because it saves them time processing a bunch of 1-day pour permits that probably are unsuitable in my mind. I don't want to be New Orleans,
Right.
where alcohol is served everywhere. I really have grave concern about, as it is, I wanted to ask, how many galleries do we have?
Yeah, I don't know. Chantal, do you have an idea?
Well, I don't even need to know the number,
Yeah.
but if we say there's 20 times 6, we're talking about events almost every night, right? All summer long. So that feels like plenty to me in that regard. And I just don't see needing to serve booze in a retail store. I really have an issue with that because it gets carried out on the street. It gets, so having a firm policy to me is really important. So, and I think to Amy's point, reasonable management of the service of alcohol in our community is an important priority. So Amy's asking for a sense of the board whether we should move these forward, right? The only other thing I wanted to say was $50 for 6 licenses seems like too little for the amount of staff time it takes to process that. So I think there should be pricing for one and pricing for more than one that are different. And I don't know what the process of changing that in the regulations is. So Amy.
Yeah, Madam Chair, thank you. And in that regards, what we wanted to do, and again, I'd probably have a smaller number there, and not all of them are going to go for this. It's just making, standard for that, is that we would have to really establish fees and do public hearings and that sort of thing. So this is more of just a consent to the policy that we are moving forward with and how we've actually managed this behind the scenes for the years. And so if this starts to work and we see this working, we can certainly add to the regulations and work on a fee structure as well. So it's more of just using what we have, and that's a fee that we have for beer and wine. And then it allows them to maybe order for a couple different events and then store that for that. So it helps with that minimum with the distributors.
And I understand that. I'm just thinking about staff time. Any other comments or questions from the board? I see two other non-board hands up and one now. Tom?
Yeah, I agree that the policy is a good idea. And I agree with the chair's comments on the rationale behind it. I'd like to see, I think as Amy stated before, the idea is to give this an on-ramp to further tweaks in, Amy, correct me if I'm wrong, but if further tweaks in other years and see how it goes, et cetera, et cetera. I'd like to see it go to 30 days next year, but I see why 14 may be an issue doing it now. So I guess I agree with the chair on the 2 separate prices for a single permit and multi-permits, and I'd like to see it to go to 30 days next year.
Okay, anybody else? Pat?
No, I'm going to support it as a start, but I think that there's some big issues that we need to tackle. I think when someone rents my house and puts 200 people here, that's a commercial, use, and that should be have as hard a bar or more of a bar than someone having one, more difficult than someone having a one-day pour in a t-shirt shop. And so I just think that we're putting, so anyway, that's a different issue, but I think we need to tackle it at some point.
Okay. All right. Malcolm?
Yeah, I've sort of moved on this. At first, I was very resistant to more regulation, but I understand the need for it. And on Matt's point of at the Board of Health, we've looked at regulations for parties or whatever, short-term rentals, and we're kind of crashing on that. It's an extremely complicated issue, and at some point we have to deal with parties at private places as well as commercial places. So I will support going forward for now.
Don, did you want to weigh in at all? Just for Amy's, you okay with the direction we're going?
I'm okay with the direction. I mean, I felt a little bit like Malcolm, where just another thing we're regulating that's been kind of a long tradition, like small galleries and so forth. But I also understand the need for it, and I think that that the approach is fair.
Okay. Joanna, did you want to add something briefly, please?
I do. Thank you, Brooke. I just wanted to say, as a person who applies for these permits on a regular basis and has for several years, This, I think, would make it, from the perspective of all of our time, easy and streamlined. We know what events we have for the entire year ahead of time to be able to submit one application, with the exception of the big gala, because I support Amy and Chantal. With the exception of the big gala, this would make it a lot easier for us to just say, here's our 10 things that we're doing, here's where they are, here's the dates. Then we're not coming back again and again and again for more paperwork. So I think efficiency wise, this is a strong idea.
Okay, Chantal?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was going to mention that. So thank you for saying that, Jana. I also just want to be very clear, because I know members of the public will be viewing this later on, that we're not proposing a new one-day pour permit requirement. We're just adding, the only change that we're making to the existing requirements is just that gallery piece to, like Joanna mentioned, to help streamline it for the galleries that are submitting requests. And this applies, of course, to the museums as well that are having their, their new gallery openings in their spaces.
Okay,
So
that's
it's
helpful.
just that piece.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you. So, Amy, do you feel like you have an understanding of the consensus of the board here?
Yeah, and just one last point is we're not really adding a regulation. We're trying to allow for an activity in an easier way, because the regulations as they stand now would not allow for it. And we're just responding to the increase and the wanting it everywhere and trying to tackle it. So we're trying not to add a regulation at all. We're trying to allow for something that's not specifically in the regulations, and help make that happen.
So moving forward, I think you have, sort of consensus to move this along, but I also think that any formal changes, it would be helpful if we held a public hearing and made sure that all the folks who have applied for licenses like this are invited to participate in that hearing.
Absolutely.
As we formalize any fee changes or any other limitations or so forth. So thank you, Amy.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, so next up is licensing and petitions, a request from Nantucket pedicabs to add advertising or sponsor logos on their pedicabs. And who wants to, is that you, Amy, again? Thank you.
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you so much. So we did receive a request. As you know, we license pedicabs now up to 4 pedicabs for Nantucket. This is their second year. So they had requested, Michael should be here, adding advertising and sponsor logos, 2 different requests to license pedicab. One was adding, as you see there, the real estate tagged there, a board there that is a removable board. They're saying no larger than 36 inches by 12 inches, containing graphics and the text advertising. They also have a opportunity for a sponsoring hotel that is sponsoring rides for all of their guests, and they want to put their logo on it so they can identify which pedicab is theirs. So I bring this to you because in the pedicabs regulations, chapter 316-2, section K there, it allows no placards, banners, or advertisements of any description will be permitted upon the outside of any pedicab without the approval of the board. Below that, I included also a similar type of restriction on taxi tour charter limos, which none of them have advertisements and announcements and things other than their own, obviously, telephone number and name. So the regulation requires to be heard and understand by the board. I included those 2 photos. I will leave it to the applicant and just say one thing in our recommendation is, as you consider this, whether yes, no, or however you want it to handle it, that to consider this a precedent setting type of decision. It's not allowed in any of these. And obviously once we start, we need to consider that. So in any approval, consider setting conditions or specific circumstances where it'd be allowed, along with the design standards. One other thing that's not allowed per the regulations is removable type of signs, and this would be removable. So we would just need to tackle those 2 items. So I will leave it to you and to the applicant.
Okay. Is Mr. Gorm, Michael, I'm going to let the board discuss first the proposal before us, and if they have questions for you, I'm going to start there. Malcolm?
I think it's been said. I mean, are we allow this? We'll have to allow it on taxi cabs, rental cars, et cetera. I'm just concerned about the precedent.
Okay. Anybody else from the board? Matt?
Has the sign committee or the historical commission been consulted?
No, not yet. We wanted to get the board's decision. And if they were to approve something like this, you would have to do that.
Dawn?
Yeah, I agree with Malcolm. I think this is a slippery slope, and we've just kind of gotten through getting advertising off of umbrellas on the outdoor dining, and I just there's no way that we could say no if taxis and so forth want to start, and tour buses, and the wait next will be advertising on the wave, and I don't think it's a good look.
No. Anybody else? The only thought I had was, and I wanted to ask Michael, if a hotel has sort of rented one of your pedicabs for a period of time, are you finding any need to have something on it that says this cab for the exclusive use of, something so that you aren't constantly having to tell people it's unavailable to them in the public? That would be sort of the only thing that I might be okay with here. Otherwise, I agree with board members, and I'm hearing seeing Amy's hand up first, and then
Go on.
Michael, go ahead.
Yes, I think that is a distinction from an advertisement. The example being with the Beachside Hotel, which has just their logo, which doesn't say Beachside Hotel or a phone number or any contact. So it would really just be an indicator for the hotel guests that is the tuk-tuk that they can have access to. And it just makes it a little more streamlined and hopefully separates it from what would be an advertisement.
Okay. I would be concerned about that also being requested by other transportation modes. So again, precedent setting policy, but that's a policy I could almost be okay with, so that drivers aren't getting, tapped or, requests from people that they can't respond to. But I wouldn't be prepared to do that today. I want to really think about how the downstream effect to other modes of transportation, private transportation. So Amy, did you want to?
Yes, Madam Chair. So a couple things, as we bring pedicabs online, I'm trying to move them for several ways after this year into the same type of process with taxi, tour, charter, and limos, with the drivers, with the all sort of situation. And taxis, they're all numbered. We probably should be doing that with the pedicabs as well, so that they're identifiable, even if there's an issue or we need to whatever, that they should be numbered, and that is a way to identify which one. I talked to the hotel as well. They said if it's different color, doesn't need to be our logo. So they certainly were amenable to other types of ways to do so, but we should probably number them, be similar.
Okay. Any other thoughts from the board on this request today? And then perhaps a directive to do a little more research on the alternative.
Madam Chair, yeah, I agree. I agree with my colleagues. I don't think this is in keeping with Nantucket. I know Michael. He's a good guy. He's trying to run a small business. He's doing this in good faith. And I hate saying no to, or my own personal opinion on no, but I think I agree with Dawn. This is a very slippery slope, and it will just lead to a lot of unintended consequences that I don't think we want on Nantucket.
Matt, did you want to say something else?
I'll just make a motion to deny advertising, and we can, if there's a way to link it to hotels and it comes back, then we'll consider it. But at this point, I'll make a motion to deny.
Okay. Do I have a second for that?
Second.
Okay. Motion by Matt, second by Malcolm. By roll call, Matt.
Aye.
Malcolm.
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Dawn,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Sorry, Michael.
Please, no apology necessary. I appreciate you all taking the time to consider this and absolutely respect that you're doing what you see best fit. So I hope you're able to enjoy this lovely day, and thanks for taking the time again.
Okay, thanks. And Dawn?
I just have to tell you, I need to log off.
Okay.
I think you guys are okay without me. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Dawn. Okay, next up is public hearings. I will open the public hearing to consider the application for change in ownership, interest, and manager of seasonal alcoholic beverages package store for Fish Sticks LLC, DBA Fresh Connect, from Joshua Hardy to Charles Merritt for the premises located at 5 Salem Street. Amy?
Yes, thanks, Madam Chair. So this is kind of a resubmission. We did a similar type of transaction in 2024, changing the manager and to Joshua Robbins and then to Charles Merritt, and then doing a change of ownership. And immediately after that hearing, there was a personal issue with someone in the beneficial interest. And so it's changed now and is going to be solely under Charles Merritt as the sole LLC member and as the liquor license manager, which was partially approved last year. We wanted to come through, do the advertisement, do the public hearing to just bring it back and do a clean, fresh slate to make sure that everything, all the T's are crossed and I's are dotted. So again, this is going forward with changing the beneficial interest and ownership to Charles Merritt and the liquor license Merritt to Charles Merritt. And he has been involved for, I think, at least 6 years. No problems whatsoever with that location. So we'll just ask approval for the amendments as listed.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Seeing none, this is a public hearing. Anyone from the public wish to speak on the matter? Let me just get the attendees. Okay. We have one attendee. Okay. So seeing none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Okay, by roll call, Matt,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Malcolm,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. That's 4-0. On the matter, a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, by roll call, Matt,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Malcolm,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. That's unanimous 4-0. Next, I'll open the public hearing to consider an application for new live entertainment license for the Nantucket Performing Arts Center. Drew, I'm going to butcher this, Kolkowski, manager for premises located at 5 North Water Street. Amy?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So had a lovely meeting introduction with the folks involved now with Nantucket Performing Arts Center, formerly White Heron Theater. They are, and thankfully have been several board members that were involved with the former theater have now purchased that building and are going to be setting off the Nantucket Performing Arts Center instead of it being developed into something else. So that's great news there. I spoke to Mr. Doran and I think Mary Seidel, who is here, and then Drew. I haven't met you yet, but Drew is going to be the executive director. So, in speaking with these folks, as you know, White Heron Theater surrendered and we non-renewed that liquor license last year. So that license is not active, does not technically exist anymore. So in our discussions with them and wanting to get up and running shortly, and I'll let them speak as to what their plans are. I think it sounds great. What our advice was, and Culture and Tourism also was involved, was that what we like to do is what we're doing in this hearing is establishing their new annual live entertainment license. We need to provide it as new, although they're doing nothing new at this time. It's going to be the same as I included in the packet, license that existed. They will need to, we'll get them set up for an inspection, but everything I think is still in great condition. They'll get their inspection and can be a live entertainment venue in the same way that they had been. And as far as liquor, what I just want to let you know what the plan is. Because when you apply for a full liquor license, which you'll have to do as a new license, you're not allowed to have any one-day pouring or special events during that time period. That can be a 3 to 4 month time period, depending on the ABCC. So you're looking at least 3 months. It's not something we'd advise during the summer because they want to have events. So if we establish them as this place of assembly with the entertainment license, they would be able to apply for one-day pouring permits. Per the law, they can apply up to 30 one day in a year. We would recommend that they be allowed to do so for the season. I don't think they're going to get up that much. And then once we get into the off season, a slow period, whether it be December or such, we can apply for that new liquor license. So I'll leave it to any questions you have on the entertainment and their plans for the upcoming season.
Okay, so would the applicants like to summarize what they're planning to do in the space for the board and the public?
Sure. I'm Bob Doran. I'm one of the founding board members. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Madam Chair and Select Board. Pleasure to meet everyone, albeit virtually. Our plans, literally a month ago today, we got the keys to the facility. We are happy to have been able to save it as a performing arts center for the island. We are planning on opening in late June, probably July 3rd, actually will be maybe our first production. And it will look very similar to the prior ownership in that we will be doing plays and some other events during the summer at this point. We will be able to announce next week, once we've secured all the rights, which is part of the process in theater, what plays we are doing. But again, we're not changing anything, the model at all at this point of what we were doing prior with the prior owners. I don't know if there are any other specific questions or if that helps clarify everything, Madam Chair.
No, that's helpful. I'll go to the board. Any questions? All quiet out there. So it sounds great. I'm thrilled that it will continue. This is a public hearing. Are there any questions or comments from the public? If not, I would entertain a motion from the board to close the public hearing.
So moved.
I have a second.
Second.
Okay, by roll call, Matt,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Malcolm,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. The public hearing is now closed on the matter. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Vote approval.
Okay. Second? It's a waiting game. By roll call, Matt,
Aye.
Malcolm,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Good luck to you all. Look forward to hearing more about what comes.
Thank you so much. We look forward to working with you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, take care. Next up, I'm going to open the public hearing to consider an application for public assembly permit for Nantucket Land Bank Family Picnic to be held on June 8th at the Creeks Preserve. And I see Rachel Freeman is in the attendees. Is that what? Oh, Dana, are you going to represent the land bank on this? Okay.
I am.
All right. Okay, Amy, I mean, it was pretty clear from the packet. Is there anything you wanted to add, Amy?
Oh, it's me.
Oh, Dana, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm so used to going to Amy.
There's not really anything that I want to add. It's the same event from last year, but it's now at the public assembly threshold. And the only concern of mine from the application was that there would be increased traffic to that area, but that's pretty much it.
Okay. All right. Any questions from the board? Dana, did you want to add anything? I was happy to see you have some offsite parking set up and
yeah, so we have offsite parking set up at Wanakamba across the street, and we have the crosswalk right there. We're going to have crossing guards. This is going to be something where people will come for an hour, maybe two max, and so we have that extra parking. It won't be completely full the entire time. People will be coming and going. So hopefully that'll help limit the traffic that happens.
Okay, terrific. If there aren't any questions from the board, I will ask the public if there's any questions or comments. This is a public hearing. Hearing none, do I have a motion from the board to close the public hearing?
So moved.
So move, Madam Chair.
Second.
Okay, so Malcolm and Matt, by roll call, Malcolm,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. The public hearing is now closed on the matter. A
Move to
motion?
approve.
Second.
Malcolm? Okay, great. By roll call, Matt,
Aye.
Malcolm,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Great community event. Good luck, you guys.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
And June 8th is a great date too. Thank you.
Of course. Hope to see you there.
Why not?
Because it's early in the season. It's not trying to jam everything into, the peak area. It's great to see some stuff start to push out into the edges. That's my theory.
It's your mom's birthday. That's great.
And it's my mother's birthday. I'm being reminded by my wife.
Okay. All right.
By
Next
Rain
up-
Man.
Next up is, I will open the public hearing to consider an application for a public assembly permit, one-day all alcoholic beverages pouring permit and entertainment license for Mariah Mitchell Association Stargazer Gala to be held July 24th, 6 to 10 p.m. at Tom Nevers Field for 400 ticketed guests. And who wants to lead us with this one? Some staff.
That's
Dina?
me as well. I just do all the public assembly
Yep.
stuff. Yeah, for this one, everything that you just said, my only input, it's been approved tentatively by Parks and Rec at their last meeting. And Charlie Palaki, the Parks and Rec manager, did contact the Tom Nevers Civic Association, I believe. That's their full name. And they did give their approval as long as it stayed within the regular bylaws of the town, which it does intend to end at 10 p.m. The only switch we would encourage from the department, there was a plan of tent layout that had been developed with the Parks and Rec manager, Charlie Palaki, which we would encourage the applicants to switch back to. But the current plan that we have on the agenda packet is the new one, but we don't have a copy of the previous one because it was never submitted with the application. So they're expecting 400 guests, which is an increase from last year, which was 350, but it had previously been held at a private residence. So this is why they're coming before you for the public hearing today.
Okay. Terrific. So on that note, with the change of tent layout, could Joanna, do you want to explain the difference and the logic behind the change?
Sure. I may ask Amy to do that, but I want to just address the 350 and 400. Basically, it's the same event as last year. We just counted the staff this year. So there's not ticketed guests. We just tried to do a better job of filling out the application. So, and Amy, do you want to talk about the tent layout, which I hope has something to do with the weather plan?
Yeah, definitely. So the tent layout, I think the question is the difference between Charlie Palaci's initial, what would be ideal scenario. His just addressing the overall layout of the property. So when we visited the property with TJ from Nantucket Party Rentals, he'll be doing the tents. The most even portion of the property with the slightest pitch is at the upper portion, upper right-hand corner of the property. Charlie's suggestion was that we do everything down on the blacktop where the parking currently is. And that whole area around the blacktop is just very uneven and a little treacherous. So it was the suggestion of TJ from the Party Rentals and just a collaboration that the most level area and that has actually the most grass is up at that top right-hand corner, which is what's on your site map there. And then the tents, we decided this year, in previous years, we've had the 51 by 111 tent. solely, and then we've had our cocktail area and everything in open outdoors. We've decided to have 2 tents this year. So if we needed to cocktail, we could have a little bit more space under cover should there be any inclement weather. So hence the reason for the 2 tents.
Okay, thanks, Amy. Question from the board?
And then I will
Okay.
note, Brooke, we did submit per the request of the events team, we did submit a revised, it's the same floor plan, but just letting you know that the space between tables is 4 feet or more. So there's plenty of means of egress. And we did outline where the exits of the tent would be, should there be sides on the tent.
Okay. Chantal?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just wondering if anyone who has control of the meeting attendees, if Charlie Palaki's on here by chance. He had mentioned that he would be joining.
I don't see him.
Ah, okay. He had some logic for why he had proposed the tents where he had proposed them. There was an issue with where the tent currently is proposed with it being thank you. Dean actually has the email to share.
Okay. Dina, do you want to run through that for us?
Yeah, sorry, it's not an email, but I recall from the previous meeting, and it's recorded if anyone wants to go back and look at it. It's the last Parks and Rec meeting. His logic was that the area where one of the tents is at, there's a dirt pit there, which used to be the location of the demolition derby. So he was concerned with people walking from the parking across the field and then to the tent. There is no knowing basically what is in the sand and the dirt that is there. And also that the sand itself is not really the ideal spot for having a large group of people. I believe it was in the 32 by 70 tent, that large sandy area. Yeah, the 32 by 70 was in the previous demolition derby spot. So that was his main concern. So basically his idea was to, not idea, his advice was to switch the tents and the parking, so that the parking would be in the sandy area and the tents would be in the asphalt area. And also, to be clear, there will be nothing going on the fields proper.
Okay, thank you, Dina. To the applicant, was the tent company aware of these concerns when you met with them?
We were not aware of that. That did come up on the Parks and Rec call, as Dina just recounted. When we did a site visit, it didn't appear that that area was a sand pit. I know that it shows that on this aerial view that it looks very sandy, but it seemed to us that it was not a concern.
Okay. So any questions or comments from the board at this on this? I'm hesitant to approve when someone who's super familiar with the site has this concern. Are you all willing to work with Charlie to come up with a plan that's amenable to him as the person responsible for the area?
I mean, the parking lot was really the least desirable location in this area, because it's not smooth, or it wasn't going to be easy to do this work. And TJ puts these tents up all the time. And so he walked the property and basically said, here's where these tents should go. And we just essentially said, okay, you're the expert, right? And we looked at the parking lot, certainly, but we didn't see that there was the space, or the ground was certainly not as smooth as it was up in the corner of this lot. I mean, I think the thing to do would be to go back to Charlie and see if there's another place to put the parking, right? So that we're not putting the parking in that area. I mean, I'm happy to go back and talk with him. But yeah, we're trying to, I think this is a great spot for this type of an event, right? Sort of self-contained, easy to get to, out of the way. All of the things that has little impact on the rest of the island, you know.
Thank you, Joanna. Okay. Any other questions or comments from the board? This is a public hearing. Is anyone from the public wishing to speak? Hearing none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second?
Second.
Okay, by roll call, Tom?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Malcolm?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. The pleasure of the board on the matter?
Madam Chair,
Tom?
I kind of agree with you. I'd like to hear what Charlie has to say, and maybe there's a chance to work out some kind of compromise here, but I'm reluctant to approve this permit without hearing from him with a further rationale of why he thought it best, and then some kind of possible settled negotiation over a location and parking.
Yeah. Erica?
Sorry, do you think it would be worth trying to get Charlie on this meeting? You can pause this discussion and go to the next one, and then if Charlie can join.
Madam Chair,
Madam Chair, if I may interject,
Oh.
he's trying to join.
Yes.
I sent him, he had an issue with the link, so he's watching from YouTube and texting me, so I just sent him the link, and he's fighting with his computer to come on. So you should be on any second now.
So Shanta, he will not be able to use your link. Ask him to use the publicly posted link to join the meeting, and then we can elevate him from attendee status. That's why he's not able to join.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay, we'll just, we'll give it 2 minutes rather than moving on to another matter, since this one's on our mind. Matt?
I've got to leave in about 5 minutes, so,
Okay,
you know, and I was willing
Okay.
to vote that one contingent on them working out the details with him, but
okay, so why don't we make that, do you want to make that motion?
so moved.
Sorry,
Okay,
can
so
that's-
that,
you repeat that?
Let's second that.
okay, so that is a motion to approve, subject to ironing out the details with, Charlie.
Yes.
Okay, so, and we will have Charlie report back to the board. Dina?
Madam Chair, he's on.
Yeah, that's,
Okay.
he's on the meeting. That's what I was gonna say.
Okay, he's an attendee. Erica, can you elevate it? Oh, there we go. Okay. All right. I mean, Matt, if you have to go, we'll still have a quorum on the other matter, so I'm not worried.
That's
So
fine.
Charlie? I mean, I have a motion on the floor. Could I have a second for discussion, and then we'll ask Charlie?
I think Malcolm seconded it.
I second it.
You did, that's right. Okay, Charlie, do you want to give us some input on your concerns about the location? And let me ask you a very specific question. Is there another spot for that second tent up in that corner as a potential rather than that particular? Because it's the one, is it both tents that are the problem or just the smaller tent?
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Charlie.
So, yeah, sorry for the problem. Sometimes switching between Zoom and Teams meeting, the computer gets a little angry. My main concerns with that area is that it was the former home of the demolition derby, and I can't, it doesn't look, because it hasn't been used, as the demo derby pit for quite some time. The grass has kind of grown over, but it is a very sandy location, and I just had concerns of things that might be buried, that we don't know about, things left behind. I'm not sure how well the site was cleaned up. Last time the demo was there. It's ultimately it'll be up to the, event planners if they think that's the best area. I mean, I voiced my concerns with it.
Okay. Okay. All right, that's really helpful. So, not a deal breaker for you, but as long as they acknowledge an understanding of the risks that you've expressed. Does that sum it up, Charlie?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to issue the permit pending working it out with Charlie. Do you want to amend the motion based on that information from Charlie? Matt? Or did he go? No, he's still there.
I'm about to go. No, I'm fine. I'll retract my motion.
Okay. And Malcolm, you okay with a retraction? And do you want to do a replacement?
No, that's fine.
Okay, and a replacement motion on the matter?
Well, I'll make the motion then that we approve with the understanding that Charlie has informed the applicant of potential risks.
Okay, do I have a second? Anybody, second?
Second.
Okay, by roll call, Malcolm?
Aye.
Matt? Matt, can you just raise your hand if you're a yes? Because I
Aye.
think your internet, okay, Tom?
Aye.
I'm giving a thumbs up. Sorry.
Yep, okay, that's okay. And the chair votes aye. All right, I wasn't hearing you there for a second. Okay, Matt, do you want to go before we open the next hearing?
Yeah,
Okay.
bye.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, good luck.
Thank you.
Next up, I'm going to open the public hearing to consider an application for a public assembly permit, 1-day all alcoholic beverages pouring permit and entertainment license for Theater Workshop of Nantucket Come Together event to be held July 30th at 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. at Bartlett's Farm for 500 participants. Dina?
Yes, kind of exactly what it says on the sticker.
Okay.
Thank you. In previous years, it had been held at the Sconset Casino, with a similar amount of people, but they have their own occupancy, which had allowed this. But since it's moving at Bartlett's, this just needs a public hearing for the public assembly to be approved. And
terrific.
Bethany is on the call for any questions specific to the event.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board? Seeing, Malcolm?
I mean, looking at that picture, it looks like it's very crowded. 500 people in that space.
In the tent, I mean, I don't know. I think I think that's the capacity of the tent. I mean, this is from David Handy. They do all the events pretty much out there, I think. We're actually sharing the same tent with Nisha, which is a couple days after us, and then the NHA event, I think a day or two after Nisha. And I think they all have similar guest numbers.
I presume that the tent that there are. Can anyone help me? Are there regulations around occupancy for these tents? And I heard an earlier applicant say that required 4 feet of space between tables. Chantal?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, there are occupancy requirements for each of the tents, and the company that they're working with for the tent, they're aware. So our David and Donald, when they put these together, there are marked exit signs that are missing from this tent layout, and we'll work with the applicant to make sure they put it forward for when we work through the emergency action plan with fire.
Okay, terrific. Thank you. Malcolm, does that answer your question?
Yeah, so fire will have input into this.
Most certainly. Sorry, Madam Chair. Yes, they most certainly
okay.
will. How we've set up the process for approving these events is that fire, police, everyone, they've already had input on these before it even comes to you.
Okay, thank you.
So excuse me, Madam Chair, through you.
Sure.
Fire has had input, or they will have input?
They have had input. Yeah. So we have their recommendations and whatnot for how many people, how many fire, ambulance, that sort of thing they need there, and with the tent layout.
Well, it's not my expertise. It just looks crowded to me.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Tom.
Chantal and Dina, I would imagine that the parking management is exactly the same for Nisha and all the other Bartlett events, correct? And they're good? Or you're good on this, basically?
Yes. Okay. Public safety also gives their input and helps regarding the parking situation, such as the police details and fire details. There are also other events happening at the farm, as we expressed in this same time period. And also this coming week, we'll have the Wine Fest events happening at the farm as well. So they have experience parking large groups of cars in this area, as well as fielding any rideshare or other transportation that might not be permanent, but will need to turn around and just be briefly in the area.
Thank you, Dina. Okay. If there aren't any other questions from the board, this is a public hearing. Does anyone from the public wish to speak on the matter? Seeing none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So move, Madam Chair.
Second.
And by roll call, Tom?
Aye.
Malcolm?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. That's a 3-0 vote. And then on the matter, a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, by roll call, Tom?
Aye.
Malcolm?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. That is approved on a 3-0 vote. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second.
Okay, by roll call, Malcolm?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Charlie, for struggling into the meeting. Thanks to Dina and Shanta and Amy, as always, for these meetings. Have a great day, guys. Enjoy the
Thanks, you
sunshine.
too.
Okay.